social goals of these wars are from ideology, not from greed.
They're intertwined.
They're intertwined, but
I
I don't buy that the wars are to enrich the MIC, the military-industrial complex. I think that's just a line, you know. I think you've really got to look at the head of Zionism if you want to see who's orchestrating the wars.
I mean, essentially, the whole thing is about complete and utter, control, sociologically, esoterically, religiously. Yes, we cannot ignore the sociological part of this. This is huge. You're right. These people, to some extent, are beyond wealth.
They care about how people behave. They care about an Afghani village. It's their business. They live in London.
It's going to come down to wanting to instill a chip in people's minds to control this. This is the last frontier they don't have access to. I mean, the propaganda put aside, which is very powerful, but this is what they're after, actually. Total slavery of the mind, of the soul, of the spirit. These are the demons we are dealing with. And they're into all sorts of esotericism, Morris. I wish we have a conversation on that. They are very much into numerology. I know this as a matter of fact. They are very much into dark magic. They are very much into all sorts of stuff that we can do an entire show on. I think that would be very interesting to your audience because nobody's talking about it. Most academics are cowards and they don't want to go near that because they think it's gonna, take away the academic, reputation. It doesn't. We need to go into that stuff as well. Deep esotericism, quite possibly going back to Atlantis, that kind of stuff. That's why the technology. They're so interested in technology. They want to use technology for evil means. That's why they are so much into transhumanism.
Yes.
Hollywood is preparing people. There was a show, Morris, this past summer that had many people mesmerized and hypnotized on their TV screen. It was called Westworld. They were introducing transhumanism right there and then. This is how Hollywood works. They manufacture the consent of the public, they brainwash them, they condition them, so when they want to actually implement it, the public is already comfortable with it. It's like putting a frog in a pot of water. You never throw a frog in a boiling water, but you put the frog in regular water and you just slowly turn up the temperature, and the frog never jumps out. He just dies in there. He just melts in there. This is what they do with people's brains and their souls. So they're big into that stuff. I have evidence from.
I'm in the conspiracy circle somewhat. I see the 9/11 movies that were made before the year before it happened. They show you in dramas and fictions, and Trump also to be president. There were TV series saying these things. Simpsons, I think.
They know exactly what they're doing. Hollywood is about an hour north of me. It's a very, very dark place. If you're in Hollywood Boulevard, there's actually a Freemasonic temple right there and then. There is, and there's a show in there facilitated by a gentleman. I forgot his name because I don't watch this show. It's a comedy show in the evenings. I forgot the guy's name. I'll look it up for you. It's actually in a former Freemasonic temple, and they never bother taking away those the stone. What do you call it? The carving into the stone that says this is the Freemasonic temple. I've gone to many of these buildings, and the energy is so horrible, Morris. So you can feel it if you're an empath, or if you're clairvoyant, or if you're intuitive. You want to get out of this building as fast as possible. They know where to build these buildings that are into rose lines and into energy centers and places where you can tap into dark energy. And people, especially children who are very pure, they feel really bad being in these places. So it's a very dark place, Hollywood, and they are all intertwined. They're intertwined with the military-industrial complex. They're intertwined with the prison-industrial complex. They're intertwined with the financial sector. They're intertwined with the regular so-called serious media, mainstream media. This is all a grand conspiracy, and for anyone who doesn't believe in this, those are the conspiracy theorists. Really, those are the conspiracy theorists. We are interested in conspiracy facts, not in conspiracy theories, and some of it we can prove circumstantially. Soon we will be able to prove it empirically. All the secrets are going to be revealed in the next few years to come. I can guarantee you that. There will be forces that are going to reveal all the secrets, and the whole house of cards is going to come down. before we can spread the truth, we have to expose the lies. And the lies are getting exposed. As we're sitting here talking through this medium called the internet, of course, we have to fact check, we have to vet the information. There's also some hocus pocus conspiracy theories as well. But in the middle of all that, and in the movement, in what we call the truth movement or the Great Awakening movement, there is a revolution of consciousness that is on the way. It is happening right now. And you and I are part of it. We are actually instrumental in changing the future right now as we're sitting here and talking, and the 1,500 or the 3,000 or God knows how many people watch this video. We are changing the future. The future is not written in stone. I disagree with that. We always have a free choice. Humanity has always had a free choice. There are times we took the dark path. There are times, like the Renaissance, where we took the path of light and knowledge and modernity and things like this. And these were all influenced by other civilizations. The Islamic civilization contributed into Renaissance. So we learn from each other. We learn from our mistake. Either we take that path or we take this path that would guarantee our extinction on this planet. And those people that are named Morris, they are looking into colonizing other planets. This is how serious this gets. Hollywood has made many movies about this to prepare the public. There was this one movie with Matt Damon, I forgot what it was called, but there was this circle outside of the Earth that apparently the creme de la creme were living outside of the Earth, in the atmosphere somewhere, and they were somehow using the Earthlings, the people who couldn't leave, as manual labor. I mean, these things are not far from reality that we're going to have in the future if we don't drastically change direction, as Krishnamurti, for example, warned us 50 years ago.
He was a very calm man.
Yes, and his library over in Ojai, California, is only 2 hours away from me. It's an amazing place. You go there, you instantaneously feel peace. So there are people who know how to tap into energy fields on Earth.
He was taken away from his parents and raised by English people in England.
Yes, the people who were part of the so-called Theosophical Society, which were crazy people. They were the ones that were behind UN. They were the first globalists of the 20th century. And they wanted this guy to become Christ. That's right. Well, Blavatsky is interpreted in so many ways, but the ones that followed her and what have you...
Steiner wasn't connected.
Who?
Rudolf Steiner.
Rudolf Steiner was connected. The entire foundation, the theological, the esoteric foundation of the UN was by these people. Most people don't know that.
Well, I never heard of that.
Oh yes, the Theosophical Society had a major role in the foundation of the League of Nations. That's what it was called first, and they chose San Francisco, a major energy. How can I put this? I haven't talked to my New Ager friends, and a lot of it is hocus pocus, but some of it is real. San Francisco is built on a vortex. That's what they call it. So the League of Nations was originally in San Francisco, and then they moved it to New York, and it was called the United Nations after World War II. So they had a major role in this. The founders of the UN had major esoteric belief structures. Some of it good, some of it purely Luciferian.
Well, you look at the early presidents of the United States and some of the things they wrote. They were very intellectual and very insightful. Nothing like the rubbish we hear these days. I don't know, Benjamin Franklin and all the others, they said amazing things.
And a lot of them were... well, that's another story, but they say the people who signed the Constitution, a significant portion of them are Freemasons. But the Freemasonry of back then is very different than what it is today, although the root of it was always Luciferianism. Most people don't even understand what Satanism is, what Luciferianism is. Really. They think it's some guy with a pitchfork and a horn. It's nothing like that. It's essentially self-worship. It's essentially moral relativism. It's when you say, I have my own truth. It's when you put aside universal truth and universal laws, and you have moral relativism, which has gotten the West into the place of decay and moral depravity and absolute decrepit behavior. So this is what Luciferianism is what was his name? The Englishman, Aleister Crowley said, do as thou willest. Do what you want. Do what you want. There is no consequences. You are God yourself. This goes back right to the lie of the Garden of Eden. Take the fruits and you shall be God.
Yeah, and yet you prefer to live in this decadent West when you could go back to Iran and live in a morally ethical place.
Well, why do you think in the past year and a half I've made three journeys, academic missions to Iran? I was seriously considering, I am still considering um, immigration to these places, Russia, Iran. This will always be my base. This is my country. I'm here because I don't want to run away. You know, I don't want to. Maybe I'm still naive. Maybe I'm still have some hope for this place, but they're not going to chase us away.
No, no,
I,
no.
I'm proud of my American heritage. There's so much good that is instilled in the American spirit, not perhaps the American methodology in the past 250 years. We got slavery, we got you know, we got the mass murder of about 10 million Native Americans. There's a lot of darkness in this place, but so there's also a lot of light, a lot of hope for humanity. We can learn from each other. So I'm not gonna just leave here. This will always be my base, but I see myself as you know, how can I put it? I know the Persian expression of it. You know, I don't want to use the word internationals or the word globalist. These words are disgusting terms now. But a global person, perhaps, somebody who believes in humanity, somebody who wants to travel like you. I look up to people like you who gave up their comfort and are living in places that you live, but you feel free.
No,
You have good
I
organic food.
I think England is sinking. I'm just so happy not to be there. But America maybe hasn't got to that point.
It will if it continues with these destructive policies that we're standing up to, and we're trying to convince people in Washington. What we have the power of persuasion. We don't believe in picking up the Kalashnikov, although we could. I don't believe in armed insurrection, because, you know, Barack Obama or, you know, Donald Trump, they have the M1 Abrams tank. What do we got? You know, what do we got? The AR-15. So
No,
I don't
no,
believe
no.
in armed resurrection, but I believe in the power of persuasion, logic, kindness, love, and all of those have their places, and the revolution has its place too. Don't get me wrong, we are not pacifists. I don't believe in pacifism, but we believe in the amazing power of persuasion. Any any power, any civilization who relies solely on its muscle power instead of its power of persuasion is no longer a civilization nor a power. And my country, unfortunately, is relying way too much on its muscle power, and this is our Achilles heel. There was a time when we were somewhat of an honest broker, somewhat. You know, these are relative things. Maybe perhaps in those few years, during Kennedy's term, maybe a little bit during Carter, although I periodically get attacked for using Carter as an example. You know, so there were periods of hope in this country's history. But there's always this duality of the battle of the sons of darkness versus the sons of light. This is deep esotericism in the community, the Qumran community that Jesus came from. You know, he was an Essene. The Essenes talked about this in their manuscripts, that in these days that we're living in, there will be a battle, spiritual as well as military battle between the sons of darkness and sons of light. And they were not just talking about humanity. They were talking about unseen forces as well, angelic forces and what have you. So we are living in those times, and that choice is up to us. Nevertheless, there are higher guides and higher forces that stop us from annihilating ourselves. Let me just put it that way. They interfere, and they should interfere, and we're thankful that they interfere, especially when it comes to nuclear power that we have, that everybody has. At least the nuclear club countries, they do interfere actively. Thank God.
Well, I thank you for today and the energy you have.
Thank you. We give this energy to each other. We are reliant on this energy of each other. We pass it along.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Sometimes we connect to the source, and then people like you are directly connected to the source. And then those people that are struggling, we freely give.